Vienna, 1909. A pale, thin young man steps off the train with two worn suitcases and a sketchbook clutched to his chest. His name is Adolf Hitler, 18 years old, freshly arrived from a quiet Austrian town, filled with the belief that destiny has chosen him for greatness. The city dazzles him. Imperial palaces rise like marble mountains. Art and music echo through grand halls, and every corner whispers of genius. This is where he will make his name, he thinks. This is where his story begins. But dreams, in Vienna, cost more than he can afford. The Academy of Fine Arts seems within reach until the letter arrives. Rejected. Twice he applies, and twice the professors dismiss his work. They say his buildings are impressive but lifeless, his figures stiff and cold. Each rejection shatters a piece of his pride. He could return home, swallow his failure, but pride won't let him. Instead, he drifts deeper into the city, chasing hope until his savings vanish. By 1910, he's sleeping in cheap hostels and men's shelters, surrounded by beggars, veterans, and lost souls. He sells hand-painted postcards of Vienna's landmarks, earning just enough for stale bread and weak soup. The cold bites at his fingers. Hunger dulls his thoughts. He spends his days sketching the city's architecture, avoiding people, avoiding mirrors. To the world, he's invisible, just another failure in a crowded empire. But something in him is changing. In Vienna's back streets, politics and hatred spread like smoke. Newspapers rail against Jews, socialists, and immigrants. Angry men gather in cafes, shouting about betrayal and purity. The young artist listens. The poison seeps in quietly. Poverty hardens his heart. Humiliation becomes rage. He begins to believe that he is not the one who failed. It is the world that has wronged him. Vienna never gave him fame, but it gave him something else. A story of victimhood, an excuse to hate. The city that rejected him became his teacher in resentment. Years later, when his name would be known across continents, he would still remember these streets, not with affection, but as the place where his anger learned to breathe. 1914. Europe is on fire. Nations march to war. And for millions, it is a tragedy. But for Adolf Hitler, it feels like destiny calling. The failed artist from Vienna finally finds a cause worth dying for. He volunteers for the German army, eager to prove his worth, to find the recognition that art and society denied him. In uniform, he feels reborn. The rules, the order, the sense of belonging, it all fills the emptiness that Vienna left behind. On the Western Front, amid the mud and screams, he becomes a different man. The trenches are hell, rats, corpses, and the stench of death everywhere. Yet Hitler seems to thrive in it. Letters from his comrades describe him as tireless, disciplined, and strangely fearless. He refuses leave, runs messages through gunfire, and survives gas attacks that blind others. The war strips him of humanity, but gives him something he has always craved: purpose. But as quickly as it began, the dream collapses. In November 1918, the war ends. Germany surrenders. The Kaiser flees. Millions are dead, and those who survived return to a country starving, bankrupt, and humiliated. For Hitler, the news arrives in a hospital bed where he's recovering from a gas attack. When he learns of the surrender, he breaks down in tears, not out of compassion, but outrage. He cannot accept defeat. He convinces himself that Germany was betrayed, stabbed in the back by Jews, Marxists, and corrupt politicians. The same poisonous ideas he first heard in Vienna now find fertile ground in his wounded pride. The empire that gave him identity has vanished, and Hitler returns to Munich, aimless once again. But Germany is a boiling pot of revolution and rage. Soldiers, veterans, and extremists crowd the streets, desperate for meaning. Among them, Hitler finds his new battlefield, not with rifles, but with words. He joins a tiny group called the German Workers' Party, a fringe movement with barely a dozen members. At first, he's just another angry veteran shouting in beer halls. But when he speaks, people stop to listen. His voice trembles with fury, his eyes blaze with conviction. He turns despair into theater, anger into vision. The failed artist has finally found his true canvas, the emotions of a broken nation. Germany, early 1920s. The empire is gone, the economy in ruins, and the streets echo with anger. People are desperate for someone to blame, someone to believe in. In the smoky beer halls of Munich, a former soldier stands before restless crowds, his voice cutting through the noise. Adolf Hitler, the man who once begged for coins in Vienna, now commands attention. His words burn with emotion. He speaks of betrayal, pride, and destiny.
Und dann Syndikalist oder heute Demokrat und morgen Deutsche Volkspartei und dann wieder Wirtschaftspartei. Sie verwechseln uns mit ihresgleichen selbst. Wir haben ein Ziel uns gewählt und verfechten es fanatisch, rücksichtslos bis ins Grab hinein.
And the people listen. He transforms the small German Workers' Party into a growing force. The National Socialist German Workers' Party, the Nazis. Its message is simple but powerful. Germany's suffering has a name, and he will destroy it. Jews, communists, politicians, all painted as enemies of the nation. The crowds grow. Symbols, salutes, uniforms, all crafted to give chaos a sense of unity. Hitler studies how emotion moves a crowd, how repetition becomes belief. To him, politics is no longer a discussion, it's a performance. By 1923, his confidence explodes. He believes the people are ready for revolution. He gathers his followers and storms a beer hall in Munich, declaring the birth of a new German government. It's a disaster. The police open fire, his uprising collapses in hours. 16 Nazis die, and Hitler is arrested for treason. But prison, for him, becomes opportunity. He spends his months behind bars dictating Mein Kampf, My Struggle. It's a strange mix of autobiography and manifesto, filled with hatred, paranoia, and dreams of empire. Few read it seriously then, but the world would one day pay for every word. When he's released, Hitler learns from his failure. No more reckless coups. He will take power legally, through elections and propaganda. The Nazi Party grows rapidly, fueled by fear and the pain of a broken economy. When the Great Depression hits in 1929, millions lose their jobs, and millions more look to him for salvation. His speeches promise order, pride, and revenge. His enemies call him dangerous. His followers call him a savior. By 1933, the transformation is complete. The homeless artist from Vienna, the fanatic from the trenches, now stands as the Chancellor of Germany. The Reichstag burns, opponents disappear, and democracy dies quietly. The man who once painted cathedrals now paints the world in fire. Germany, 1939. The crowds roar beneath crimson flags. The nation that once crawled in defeat now marches in step to the voice of one man, Adolf Hitler. He has rebuilt the army, silenced opposition, and turned fear into faith. His every speech is broadcast, his every word treated as law. For millions, he is not a politician anymore. He is a symbol, a savior, almost a god. But behind the parades and promises lies a darkness so vast that the world has never seen anything like it. In 1939, Hitler invades Poland. The Blitzkrieg, lightning war, moves fast and brutal. Towns burn, soldiers surrender, and within weeks, Europe trembles. Britain and France declare war, but Hitler is unstoppable. Denmark, Norway, the Netherlands, Belgium, France, one after another, they fall. In every victory, his confidence grows, and so does his cruelty. By 1941, he dares to do the unthinkable. He invades the Soviet Union, a gamble for total domination. The fighting is savage, the death toll unimaginable. Yet war is only half of his horror. Behind the front lines, the Nazi regime unleashes its true face. Entire communities are rounded up, stripped of names and lives, sent to camps built for one purpose: extermination. The Holocaust becomes an industrialized nightmare. Trains carry millions to their deaths: Jews, Roma, political prisoners, anyone the regime deems undesirable. The world would later call it genocide, but inside Hitler's empire, it is called cleansing. As the war rages on, his circle shrinks. He no longer listens to generals or allies. He trusts only his own delusions. Cities are reduced to rubble, families scattered, entire nations enslaved. Even as bombs fall over Berlin, He insists Germany is invincible. His speeches grow more desperate, his orders more insane. The man who once blamed the world for his failures now seeks to destroy it altogether. By 1944, the tide turns. The Allies land in Normandy, the Soviets push from the east, and Hitler's empire begins to crumble. The dream of domination turns to ruin, but he cannot see it. He refuses to surrender, even as his own people starve. The flames he ignited have consumed the world, and soon they will consume him too. Berlin, 1945. Once the proud capital of Hitler's empire, now it is a graveyard of rubble and smoke. Soviet artillery thunders in the distance, drawing closer each day. Underground, in a bunker beneath the Reich Chancellery, Adolf Hitler clings to the last fragments of his delusion. The man who once dreamed of ruling the world now commands an empire that exists only on paper. Above him, the city burns, the price of his obsession paid in full. Inside the bunker, reality fades. He's thin, shaking, his voice a ghost of what it once was. Maps on the walls show armies that no longer exist. He rants at generals who fear to speak the truth. Every defeat is blamed on betrayal. The same paranoia that fueled his rise now isolates him completely. Outside, thousands die defending a city already lost, while Hitler speaks of destiny and loyalty. Even as the walls tremble with explosions, he insists that Germany will triumph. On April 30th, 1945, with the Soviets only streets away, Hitler faces the end. He marries Eva Braun in a brief, hollow ceremony, then retreats to his private room. Moments later, a gunshot echoes through the bunker. When his guards enter, the man who once set the world on fire lies lifeless, a pistol by his side, his empire in ruins. Above ground, Berlin falls. Days later, Germany surrenders. Millions are dead, cities erased, families shattered. The monster who promised a 1,000-year Reich left only ashes that would take generations to heal from. In the end, his story is not one of power, but of destruction, a warning carved into history about what happens when hate replaces humanity. So if this story made you reflect, if it made you feel the weight of history and the cost of blind hatred, don't let it fade away. Subscribe to the channel, share this story, and help keep these lessons alive. Because remembering isn't just history, it's protection. The past can always return, unless we choose to learn from it.